She grabs wrong suitcase at airport, unaware of the millionaire owner who can't forget her perfume. Eva Carter had no idea that one small mistake at the airport would change the course of her life. She was flying back to Boston on a crisp early spring afternoon, returning from a week-long solo getaway to Oregon. It had been a short trip, a birthday gift to herself after months of emotional burnout. She needed quiet, space, and distance, from work, from people, and especially from the man who had ended their relationship 3 weeks ago with the words, "You're just not ambitious enough for the life I want." At Logan Airport, Eva tugged a familiar Navy suitcase off the carousel. In one hand, she carried her tote bag and the novel she'd been reading on the flight. She didn't notice that the luggage tag had come loose. She only wanted to get home, take a hot shower, and curl up in the reading nook of her bookstore, Leaf and Line. Somewhere else in the sky, Liam Rowe was finishing a business trip from San Francisco, flying back to New York on his private jet. As the CEO of one of the East Coast's most prominent publishing companies, his schedule was relentlessly full. Meetings, deadlines, handshakes, and boardrooms. That was his life. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Liam reached for the suitcase at his feet, expecting to find his neatly folded suits in tomorrow's presentation. Instead, the moment he unzipped it, the scent of something unfamiliar, floral, warm, alive, rose to meet him, and he froze. Inside was not the crisp, tailored suits and his laptop. Instead, there was a neatly folded beige scarf, a small glass perfume bottle, and an old leather-bound journal. He frowned. This wasn't his suitcase. His fingers brushed against the journal. It still held a soft, lingering scent, warm, floral, with a hint of woodiness. He opened to the page marked with a pressed flower. Delicate handwriting filled the page. Plan for expanding the reading space, monthly poetry night, free choice kids corner. He sat back. Something about the words stilled him, something honest, grounding. Tucked beneath the journal was a photograph. A woman sat by a window bathed in sunlight, holding a book. Her face wasn't fully visible, but the light in her expression shone through. It wasn't the kind of beauty he saw at galas and corporate dinners. It was calm, real. He should have been irritated. That suitcase contained documents he needed, but instead he picked up the perfume bottle, uncapped it, and inhaled deeply. The scent awakened a part of him he thought had long gone quiet. Back in Boston, Eva unzipped the suitcase in her small apartment and immediately knew something was wrong. Men's dress shirts, expensive suits, a high-end laptop. Her stomach dropped. She had taken the wrong suitcase. Not just anyone's. A business card slid out from a folder. Liam Rowe, CEO, R&R Publishing, New York. Her heart sank like a stone. Her phone rang then, breaking the silence. An unknown number flashed on the screen. "Hello, this is a call on behalf of Mr. Liam Rowe. We believe there's been a luggage mix-up at the airport today," a polite male voice said. Eva stood frozen, her cheeks flushed. "Oh my God, yes, I just realized. I'm so sorry. I can bring it to the airport right away." "There's no need. Mr. Rowe will be in Boston tomorrow. He'd like to meet you personally to exchange the luggage. If it works for you, 3 p.m. at the Four Seasons." "Meet in person?" she stammered. "Yes, per Mr. Rowe's request." Eva hung up, her heart pounding. Why would someone like Liam Rowe want to meet her in person? She glanced at the luxury suitcase on her floor, still unopened. She didn't know what, exactly, he had seen. But somewhere, far above her world, that man, surrounded by the scent she'd left behind, was already thinking about her. The next afternoon, Eva stood in the grand lobby of the Four Seasons in downtown Boston, her palms damp with nerves. Liam Rowe's suitcase stood next to her like it didn't belong, an expensive, polished object in a place where everything gleamed. She felt completely out of place among the sharply dressed guests, the quiet footsteps on marble floors, and the soft piano music drifting from a far corner. She had worn the simplest navy dress she owned, paired with a thin cardigan. Her hair was tied back, though a few loose strands fell around her face no matter how many times she tucked them behind her ear. She had told herself 100 times that this was just an exchange of luggage. Nothing more. But her heart didn't seem to get the message. When the elevator doors opened, the man who stepped out needed no introduction. Tall, dark-haired, and impeccably dressed in a gray suit, Liam Rowe moved through the lobby like the space had been built around him. His eyes scanned the room and landed on her. For a second he paused, not with confusion, but like he was confirming something. "Miss Carter?" His voice was lower than she'd imagined. Calm, steady. "Yes," she replied, forcing a smile. "I'm really sorry about the luggage mix-up. It's fine," he interrupted gently. "These things happen." A brief silence settled between them. Eva pushed the suitcase toward him. "Here's yours. I kept everything as it was." "Thank you." He nodded to the assistant beside him, who stepped forward to take the suitcase and set hers down in return. "And this is yours. I hope nothing's missing." Eva knelt slightly to unzip it, immediately spotting the familiar perfume bottle, her notebook, and the folded scarf. "Everything's still here," she said, exhaling. "I just feel really embarrassed. I didn't check the tag." Liam was quiet for a beat, his gaze still fixed on her face. "You know," he said slowly, "there was something in your suitcase that stayed with me." Eva looked up, anxious. "That perfume," he continued, "smelled like a quiet afternoon I didn't realize I missed." She let out a soft laugh, surprised by how gently he'd phrased it. "It's my grandmother's scent," she said softly. "She used to make it herself. After she passed, I searched everywhere until I found someone who could recreate it. Wearing it makes me feel like she's still here." For a moment, Liam said nothing. His gaze lingered on her, as if the fragrance had carried him somewhere quieter, somewhere untouched by deadlines and deals. Then he cleared his throat. "And the notebook," he added. "I didn't mean to read it, but it drew me in." Eva's eyes widened. "You read my journal?" "Just one page," he replied, unashamed. "The one with the pressed flower? Notes about your bookstore. They were different." She didn't know what to say. She should have been angry, but there was something in his voice, no mockery, no judgment, that disarmed her. "You've built a small world that actually matters," Liam added, "and I happen to be working on something right now. I could use someone like you." "Someone like me?" Eva echoed. "Exactly. Someone who doesn't see the world in spreadsheets." He offered a small smile. For the first time, she noticed something imperfect about him, a fine line near his eye, a faint weariness beneath the polished surface. And maybe, just maybe, like her, he was also searching for something unnamed. They settled at a small corner table in the hotel cafe. Liam politely asked if she'd like something to drink. Eva ordered an Earl Grey tea and he chose a black espresso. She hadn't planned on lingering, but somehow their conversation began to unfold more naturally than she expected. "How long have you had the bookstore?" Liam asked, his eyes on her, not on his phone, like so many others she'd met before. "Almost 3 years," Eva replied. "At first it was just a little sublet space in an old neighborhood, but then I realized people still need quiet. They need the smell of paper. They need conversations that don't require Wi-Fi." Liam smiled. "I like how you describe it. It sounds like its own world." "Because it is my world," she said softly. He nodded and something in his gaze softened, like he was also recalling a world of his own he'd once known. "And you?" Eva asked. "Did you always want to be in publishing?" Liam was quiet for a moment before answering. "Not exactly. When I was younger, I wanted to write fiction, short stories, the kind where something small ends up changing someone's life." "Do you still write?" He shook his head. "I forgot how to, or maybe I just forgot how to feel something real enough to write about." That made Eva pause. She understood that feeling too well. "Maybe," she said gently, "everything we lose is just waiting to return to us in another form." Liam looked at her, just a little longer than expected. "I'm actually looking for someone like you for an upcoming project," he said. Eva raised her eyebrows. "What kind of project?" "We're developing a new line. Not just books, but experience-driven reading. Books paired with sensory elements, scents, textures, atmospheres, things that help people connect to themselves." "That sounds like my bookstore," she whispered. "Exactly," Liam replied. "And I need someone who doesn't come from a boardroom, someone who lives among books, among real people. I think that's you." Eva didn't know what to say. She had come here to return a suitcase, not to be invited into a creative project by a high-profile CEO. But she couldn't deny that. For a brief, flickering second, something in his words stirred a version of herself she thought she'd folded away, like an old page of a long-forgotten book. A week after their unexpected meeting at the hotel, Eva still couldn't stop thinking about Liam's offer. She had planned to say no. Clearly, his world was nothing like hers. Meetings, strategy sessions, market analyses. It wasn't a place for someone who served tea in handmade mugs and wrapped books in recycled newspaper. But then he sent her an email. No attachments, no proposal. Just a single line. If you're ready to write a new chapter for yourself, meet me at my office this Friday. We'll just talk. Eva printed out the email, folded it carefully, and placed it between the pages of her leather notebook. And on Friday morning, she walked into the glass high-rise of R&R Publishing in Manhattan, heart pounding like she'd stepped into a story she hadn't meant to enter. Liam greeted her at the front desk. Gone was the gray suit and CEO aura. Today, he wore a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His eyes were bright, but not sharp. He looked like someone who'd been waiting, not demanding. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm still not sure why I'm here," Eva admitted. "Then let me show you." He led her down a long hallway, past the creative floor, where inspiration boards were pinned with fabrics, dried flowers, book mock-ups, quotes, color palettes. A world of imagination, half dreamed and half built. "We're working on a book line called Sentience Series," Liam explained. "It's not just about reading, it's about feeling. Each book will come with sensory elements, scents, textures, small artifacts that match the emotional journey of the characters." Eva touched one of the prototypes, a linen-wrapped book paired with a small pouch of tea leaves, a wooden-scented paper strip, and a handwritten letter. "We have writers. We have designers, but we need someone who understands the real connection between people and books." Liam turned to her. "We need you." Eva looked up, still hesitant. "I don't have a publishing degree," she said. "I'm not a marketer or a strategist." "I know, but you have something most people in this industry lost a long time ago." "What's that?" "A belief in quiet." Strangely, those words made her want to cry. At lunch, they sat at a small restaurant below the building. Liam shared more about the project, about why he wanted to create something different, not for profit, but because, in his own words, he had lost touch with something essential. I used to think success was numbers and awards," Liam said, "but the more I had, the less I felt." Eva listened, fingers gently tracing the rim of her glass. "I used to think I needed to prove something," she said, "that I could be the kind of person people took seriously. But then I realized maybe the most important thing I could do was create a small space where someone could just be themselves." Liam nodded. "We're both rewriting chapters, aren't we?" Eva smiled. "In that case, you'll probably need an editor." They both laughed, and for the first time, their laughter didn't feel like it came from different worlds. In the days that followed, Eva began spending time at R&R Publishing's creative office. She wasn't used to the glass walls, the giant digital screens, or the buzz of jargon-filled meetings. But somehow, Liam always arranged a spot for her by the window, at a desk piled with books instead of spreadsheets. "You don't have to be anyone else here," he told her once, noticing how she shrank under the glances of fashionable young staff. "Just be you." Eva nodded, breathing in deeply. During the first brainstorming session, words bounced around the room. Engagement, technology, efficiency, metrics. Eva stayed silent until Liam turned to her. "What about you? What do you think?" She hesitated. "What if, instead of trying to make something overly modern, we created a healing bookstore? A place where each book feels like a doorway, paired with small details that help the reader connect. A scent, a letter, a cup of tea. Something that doesn't distract them, but draws them closer to themselves." The room fell quiet for a few seconds. One young staffer frowned. "That sounds, too simple." But Liam leaned forward, his eyes lit up. "No, that's exactly what we've been missing. Simplicity, authenticity." Eva flushed, lowering her gaze to her notebook. She wasn't used to her ideas being taken so seriously. In the sessions that followed, the distance between them shrank. Their talks drifted from work into personal stories. Eva spoke about her grandmother who first taught her to love books, their nights reading fairy tales under a warm yellow lamp. Liam shared how, as a teenager, he used to scribble short stories into school notebooks, hiding them in drawers because he was afraid someone might read them. One afternoon, as they sorted through stacks of prototype prints, Liam said suddenly, half joking, "If we keep working like this, I'll have to hire you full-time." Eva laughed. "If I worked here, I'd probably ruin everything." "No," Liam replied, his voice warm. "You'd make everything feel less fake." Their eyes met, holding just a moment too long, and in that quiet moment, Eva felt something beginning to take root. Soft, unspoken, but undeniable. Liam came to Leaf and Line one Saturday afternoon, stepping into Eva's private world for the first time. The wooden door creaked open, the bell chimed softly, and there he was, in a pale blue shirt and jeans, his eyes moving over the space as if reading a book he had never known existed. The little bookstore was filled with the scent of fresh paper blended with coffee dripping in the pot, the faint sound of jazz from an old speaker, and the warm glow of a yellow lamp over the reading corner with its worn armchair, making the place feel more like a home than a shop. Liam walked slowly, brushing his hand along the spines, breathing out almost to himself. "It feels like I've missed something. Everything here is real." Eva simply smiled, her heart racing, saying nothing at all. From then, they began to see each other more often, as though work was only an excuse to reach into each other's worlds. Some days they strolled through Boston's public garden, listening to the rustle of leaves and the scent of wet grass after rain, sharing pieces of their childhoods. Liam confessed that as a boy he used to write short stories, little fragments about ordinary people, but never showed them to anyone. "I once wanted to write a novel," he admitted, his voice distant, "but I never gave myself the chance." Eva chuckled softly. "Maybe you just need a reason." Then she told him her own story, the breakup that still lingered, about the boyfriend who had left her with the words, "You're not ambitious enough for my life." She spoke with a smile, but Liam saw the bitterness behind it. He shook his head. "Ambition isn't always measured by what others can see. You've created a place people want to return to, and that's harder than most things." Eva said nothing, but her eyes flickered with unspoken emotion, as if something hidden had been seen. Another evening, Eva invited him to her small apartment above the shop. The kitchen was tiny, barely enough space for two, wrapped in the golden warmth of a single lamp. They cooked a simple meal together, pasta with fresh tomato sauce. Liam clumsily chopped onions, eyes watering, and Eva laughed, her laughter ringing through the room like music. He laughed too, confessing, "I've never been good at this." Eva handed him a tissue, her gaze gentle. "That's okay, here. You don't have to be perfect." The words stopped him, as if it was the first time anyone had given him permission to let go. As the water boiled, he began to speak again. "I lost my father when I was very young. My mother worked 2 jobs to raise me and my sister. Maybe that's why I've always believed I had to be the kind of man who never showed weakness." Eva didn't answer. She simply placed her hand over his, and the silence between them became the deepest form of comfort. Later that night, after the dishes were cleared and the city had grown quiet, they sat by the open window, spring air carrying the faint scent of blossoms. Eva draped her familiar scarf around her shoulders, and Liam leaned closer, inhaling as if the fragrance unlocked a long closed door inside him. "That's the scent from the suitcase," he whispered. Eva nodded. "The scent of memory." Their eyes held, longer than a breath. Slowly, Liam leaned in, as if asking permission, and Eva didn't move away. The kiss came softly, trembling, not loud or dramatic, but deep, making the whole room seem brighter with a truth neither of them could deny. Surrounded by books, the faint trace of coffee, and the old scarf, they found each other, and the long-lost feeling of belonging. That night ended with their first kiss, soft as a breath, yet powerful enough to change everything. From then on, their everyday meetings became an inseparable part of life. Eva's world and Liam's world began to blend together, as naturally as water finding its way back to the sea. But the closer they grew, The more they realized this wasn't just about walks in the park or dinners in a tiny kitchen. Liam was still a CEO with hundreds of eyes watching his every move. Eva was still the independent bookstore owner who had chosen peace over ambition. And while the scent of memory still lingered on her scarf, reality was already knocking on their door, bringing with it the first test they would have to face. Just days after their sweet first kiss, reality came knocking in a way Eva had never imagined. On a quiet Sunday morning, as she unlocked her bookstore, a message from an old friend lit up her phone. It was a link to a tabloid article. Splashed across the front page was a photograph of her and Liam, walking hand in hand through Boston's public garden. The way they looked at each other, the way Liam tilted his head with a smile, all of it had been captured, magnified, and turned into a story. The headline screamed, "CEO Liam Rowe spotted with mystery woman. New romance or passing fling?" Eva scrolled to the comments and her hands began to tremble. Strangers called her a gold digger, a small-town bookseller chasing fame. One even wrote, "He deserves a supermodel, not some nobody who sells books." Each word felt like a tiny blade, cutting deep where she was most vulnerable. For years, Eva had chosen a quiet life, believing her little bookstore was enough. A safe world where people came only for stories and a cup of tea. Now, with a single photograph, that small world felt shattered, dragged into a spotlight she had never asked for. She felt stripped bare, like her quiet corners had been invaded by 1,000 faceless voices. Inside the little shop that had always been her sanctuary, Eva suddenly felt suffocated. The sunlight pouring through the window seemed harsh, unforgiving. She shut her phone, but the cruel words still echoed in her mind. By afternoon, Liam arrived. He brought a bag of warm coffee and a smile meant to soften the moment. But one look into her eyes told him nothing could erase the hurt she was carrying. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. "I should have anticipated this. The press doesn't let go of anything, especially when it involves me." Eva shook her head, her gaze falling away. "I didn't know it would be like this. I just wanted a quiet life. I'm not used to being watched, judged, like I'm some object for strangers to dissect." Her voice broke as she added, "I built Leaf and Line so people could feel safe, so I could feel safe. And now, even there, I can't breathe. It's like the world has reached into my quietest place and turned it into a spectacle." Liam stepped closer, reaching for her hand but stopped just short. He drew in a steady breath. "Eva, if you're with me, this won't be the last time. It won't just happen once. It'll happen again and again, and I can't stop all of it." The silence that followed pressed heavy between them. Eva's chest tightened. She thought of their walks in the park, the dinners in her tiny kitchen, the moments she believed belonged only to them. But now she realized Liam's world could never truly be private. It was too bright, too loud, and she was just a shadow out of place. "I don't know if I can survive this," she whispered. "I feel like I'm standing somewhere I was never meant to be. I don't belong in flashing headlines, Liam. I belong between shelves of worn-out books, in a kitchen that smells like tomatoes and basil, in a world so small it doesn't need to be seen. That's where I know who I am. But this feels like I'm disappearing." Liam's eyes held the rare look of helplessness in a man who always seemed to control everything. He wanted to tell her that love would be enough, that it could carry them through. But in that moment, he knew the words would sound like nothing more than an empty promise. Outside the window, the afternoon sun was fading, casting golden light across the shelves. Eva turned away, hiding the tears that slipped down her cheeks. And though only a single step separated them, it suddenly felt like the vast distance between two worlds. The distance carved by cruel comments and relentless scrutiny became an invisible wall between them. After that heavy afternoon, Eva let the silence stretch between them. Messages went unsent, calls unanswered. Instead, she buried herself in Leaf and Line, stacking shelves, brewing tea for familiar faces, pretending the busyness could quiet the ache in her chest. Yet no matter how hard she tried, there were moments when the soft chime of the door made her pause, her heart hoping for a face she refused to admit she missed so deeply. Days slipped into weeks, into stretches of silence, until one late afternoon, when the last rays of sunlight streamed across the counter, Eva noticed a small package left behind. It was a hardcover novel. On the first page, written in careful script, were the words, "For the one who helped me remember why I began." No signature, but she knew instantly who it was. Her fingers trembled as she traced the line. That night, she held her phone for a long time, caught between silence and longing. At last, she dialed. When his voice came through the line, both fell quiet, as if breathing the same air across the distance. "Shall we meet?" Eva whispered. They chose Boston Public Garden, the place where they had first spoken openly. By evening, the park was quiet, bathed in golden light over the still water. Eva arrived first, standing by the row of trees where she had once paused. She clutched her scarf, trying to steady her nerves. Liam approached, no longer the powerful CEO, just a man carrying the weight of missing her. He stopped before her, his eyes bright yet clouded with worry. "I'm sorry," he began. "I know how much this hurt you. I wish I could shield you from all of it." Eva lowered her gaze. "I'm not angry with you. I'm just afraid. Afraid I'm not strong enough to live in your world. It's too bright, too loud. And I only know how to live in small things." Liam stepped closer, his voice trembling but steady. "I don't need that brightness. I don't need the numbers, the accolades. The only thing I know is, I don't want to live without you." Eva looked up, tears shimmering. "If you can accept a small, imperfect world, where no one knows our names, where life is measured in cups of tea and quiet afternoons, then I'm ready to share it with you." Liam's hand closed over hers, firm and certain. "Ava, I don't need any other world. As long as I have you, anywhere is home." In that moment, the park grew so still, they could hear nothing but their hearts. No cameras, no judgments, only two people stripped down to the truest part of themselves. Ava nodded softly, her lips trembling, but her eyes shining. And this time, when Liam leaned down to kiss her, she didn't just accept the kiss. She accepted the promise within it, that from now on, neither of them would run. And as the evening faded, in the park where it had all begun, they wrote the most important chapter of their story yet. After that evening in the park, nothing was the same. They had chosen each other, despite the blinding lights and the lurking shadows. From that moment on, every day became a step forward into a future they were building together. 3 months later, Leaf and Line had taken on a new life. Behind the familiar shelves, Eva had opened a small reading and coffee space. The same warm yellow lights, the same worn chairs, but now the scent of freshly roasted coffee and the soft murmur of visitors filled the air, making the shop more alive than ever. Most importantly, Eva hadn't lost the quiet peace that had always made the place a haven for wandering souls. Liam was there almost every day. He brought his laptop, sat by the window, working remotely while lifting his eyes now and then, just to smile at Eva. He had begun to learn how to live slowly, sipping coffee instead of rushing through calls, reading a few pages before answering emails, letting himself enjoy the small details, things he had never allowed himself before. One afternoon, Eva asked softly, "Do you regret it? Giving up the meetings, the flights, the elegant dinners?" Liam smiled. "I didn't give anything up. I just traded it for something I never dared to keep before." That summer, they prepared for a trip to Oregon, the place Eva had once gone alone in her loneliest days. This time, she wasn't going alone. At the airport, Liam handed her a dark blue suitcase. "For you," he said. Eva opened it. Inside was a small bottle of perfume, the exact scent from the old suitcase years ago. Next to it, a tiny box. When she lifted the lid, a ring sparkled beneath the airport lights. On the runway, with the roar of engines in the distance, Liam held her hand, his eyes fierce with certainty. "Your scent brought me back to myself. Ava, will you marry me?" Eva bit her lip, tears shimmering as her smile broke through. "I will always choose you, whether in a bookstore or in a city where no one knows our names." Liam laughed, wrapping her in his arms, and amid the noise of the world, all they could hear was the sound of their hearts beating together. A week later on the Oregon coast, the wind tangled through Eva's hair as she sat on the sand. She pulled out the old leather notebook, the one that had once held her loneliest thoughts. This time she wrote a final line. "We began with a mistake and ended with a certainty." Looking up, she saw Liam walking toward her, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee, his eyes lit as if no distance in the world could ever matter again. And with the waves crashing around them, Eva knew the new chapter had begun. Not for her, not for him, but for them both.